Hey there, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the second video in our 6-part series on how to build a marketplace with no-code tools. Now, in the last video, we went over how you can use Webflow to build the first version of your marketplace, which doesn't need to be complicated, just a simple way for potential buyers and sellers to get in touch with you. This week, we're going to be talking about how to build a marketplace backend in Airtable. Now, before we do, I do want to quickly recap some key points from the last video. So really, when you are building a talent marketplace, if you take the approach of trying to build every single feature at once, it's going to take way too long for you to be able to get something to market. And when you do bring something to market, you can find yourself in a situation where people simply do not care about what it is that you're doing. And so we want to be smart about it. We want to take an approach where we get things out fast and not overly commit to a particular path and really just use market feedback to kind of figure out what we should do next. And so here's an example of a marketplace for hiring legal researchers. And this is really all you need to do in the first iteration. So you just create your homepage. It says we're a marketplace for hiring legal freelancers. Then just a little bit of an explainer as to what it is that you're doing, all that kind of stuff. And then as soon as you've got your home page, all the other pages that you need to add is simply a way for people to get in touch with you. So just to fill out a contact form essentially. And then on a redirect, so once they fill out the form, just to take you to a page where someone can schedule a call with you. And so you can use calendar integration, you can use cal.com. I just use cal.com because it's free and you can customize it in a really nice way. But really, that is all you need to do. As soon as you have that, you can start messaging potential customers and they will hopefully be able to give you feedback on whether or not what you're doing is something that they're interested in. Now, what will happen after you start spreading the word about your marketplace is that hopefully clients will be getting in touch with you. Then there will be talent that will want to join your platform. And one of the things that you're going to find really early on is that things kind of get a little bit unorganized because, you're managing emails from that person in that channel, and then this client wants a job, and it just gets messy. I mean, when I did it with the Unicorn Factory, I found myself in a situation where, I just needed to find a way to get organized. And this is where a tool like Airtable comes into play. Now, what are we going to be going over? First of all, I want to talk about, what is a database tool, even though I did cover a majority of it just in this little intro. Then how I use Airtable on the Unicorn Factory specifically. So let's take a look at kind of like what a database tool like Airtable looks like when it's been around for a few years. Then we'll do a little bit of an Airtable 101, just understand what Airtable does, what the kind of tools are, how you can use it for your marketplace. And then we're going to be going specifically over how to structure a marketplace database. And then we're going to wrap things up by me showing you how you can build your first version of your database. And again, we're going to keep it simple. It's all about moving fast and efficiently. Okay, with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, first things first, what is a database tool? So a database tool is essentially a system that you can use to organize large amounts of data. Now, if for example, you are working on a website that is like a freelancer marketplace, you're going to have a lot of different types of information that you're going to be processing on a regular basis. For example, you might have freelancers that sign up, you might have clients signing up, you might have clients messaging freelancers. And essentially, if you don't have a system to organize the flow of all the information, you'll find yourself in a situation where, for example, mistakes happen, information slips through the cracks, and overall, it just makes your system significantly more inefficient. And so what you want to do is you want to use a tool that will allow you to get organized, because as soon as you get organized, it's a lot easier for you to process the information that passes through your site faster, and it allows you therefore to scale what it is that you're able to do a lot further. Now, let's take the Unicorn Factory, for example. If you think of a traditional marketplace business, let's think about the different types of data that you might have on the site. Now, for starters, you have the freelancers that sign up. So those is all the information that they provide to you on sign up, and it's the information that you essentially use to create different profile pages on your website. Then you have clients who sign up, clients who are looking for freelancers, and those clients can create job listings. And so again, we've got a different type of information. information. And so by being able to categorize it into different types of data, you'll always know exactly where everything is. And one thing that is particularly useful with relational database tools is that you can actually connect them to each other, which makes sure that the information that you're using doesn't have to be duplicated multiple times. You can simply reference information in other tables. Now, I'm going to be showing you a specific example of, a marketplace and how all of these kind of tools work together. But on the Unicorn Factory, if we look at where it is now, here are the different types of data that I have. So I've got freelancers, I've got clients, I've got messages, which is, whenever a client reaches out to a freelancer. I've got the job board when a client posts a job to our job board. I've got the introduction part where, if a freelancer applies for a job, and every single one of these tables here represents a different data type. And so I've probably got about 15 different tables, my support tickets, my subscriptions, all of these different types of things. And you can use this information to basically stay organized. And so here's an example of my skills table where you can see all of the different skills that I might want to create a landing page for in here, all of my active ones. You can kind of see what category it ties into, and all of the information in here that I've got stored. So for example, my header title, my header description, my job title is all information that I'm going to use in relation to this particular data type. So if, for example, I have tables a collection inside of my Webflow site that is, a skills landing page, then this is where I'm going to be using all of the information to basically determine what ends up in Webflow. So besides it just being a tool that I use to organize everything on the Unicorn Factory, it also essentially becomes the source of truth for all of the other tools that I'm using. So, whenever I decide that I want to create a new landing page for a service, then I will first of all type out all the information inside of Airtable before it gets sent to Webflow. If, for example, a subscription gets paid for inside of Stripe, then all of that information gets sent for processing in Airtable, so that there's always the one source of truth with all of the most up-to-date information. Now, because I've got a lot of sensitive data on the Unicorn Factory, I can't actually show you most of the tables, but I've created essentially a replica of something like the Unicorn Factory to kind of show you what the actual data looks like inside of a database. Now, let's go over some of the important Airtable terminology to understand. So the first thing is the term base. Now, the base basically represents your entire app. So in this case, it's the talent marketplace for AI freelancers. It is, the other one's called the Unicorn Factory. And so it's basically the overarching name of your database tool. Now, within your database, you're going to have different tables, and every table represents a unique type of data. So we've got freelancers, clients, projects, essentially what I just showed you on the Unicorn Factory. Within each table, you're going to have different fields, which represents a different value associated with that table. So in here, we've got the freelancer table, we've got the status field that kind of reflects the stage that a freelancer's in, the name field, a profile photo, phone number, location, and say something like the hourly rate. Now, all of these fields here is essentially information that I'm going to be using on my platform one way or the other. So for example, I might use the profile picture in order to create a profile page inside of my Webflow CMS. The phone number might be something that I'd pass on to a client when they message one of the freelancers. And so ultimately, when you're thinking about what information you want to collect, you want to think about how you'll use the information. And so ultimately, over time, whilst you can start off with something simple, it will essentially grow into something bigger. Now, another concept that is important to learn is what's called linked records. Now, one of the key advantages of relational databases is that you can actually create connection between the different data types. So in this particular case, every freelancer can have an association with a skill. So these might be skills that they are offering. So you can see here that it now links to a record, and so the record is basically an entry into one of the tables inside of our skills table. So if I head over to the skills table, you'll see all of the different skills that are listed in here. So for example, we've got a skill called AI ethics, and then in here you can see that this particular skill is associated with a freelancer. Now, the question is, well, why do we even need these skills or these references. And the main reason for it is because it makes the use of managing data a lot more efficient. For example, let's say we have a freelancer sign up, say Connor at example7.com, and he basically says, okay, some of the skills that I have is AI powered game design and so on. Now, if we go ahead and we want to see who are the people that have that particular skill set, then you'll be able to see that link a lot faster. Now, here's the thing that's interesting though. Now, if I were to, for example, go in here and manually add the name of freelancers with that skill. So let's go ahead and we'll add it as a single line text. And I said, okay, let's go and add that. And we'll say, okay, look, Connor told me he can do that particular skill. So we'll go add it, Connor at example7.com. And then, in say like 2 months time, Connor messages me and goes, oh, actually, hey, I've got a new email address. I want it to be Connor at example9.com. Now what happens is that I will have to go into every single part of my database that is using the old email address and update it. And so obviously what that now means is that there's a lot of room for mistake. And so again, this is one of these features that makes managing data a lot more efficient. And especially when it comes to, using other integrations, it's incredibly handy to be able to reference how certain data is connected to each other, because it essentially makes it a lot easier for you to then later on scale up. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is how do you actually set up a database for a marketplace business? Now, again, the best way to approach it is to start off by keeping it super simple and then to iterate on it as you go. But in real simple terms, all you need to do is to think about the different data types that you're going to be processing through your platform. So let's say, for example, we're going to create our legal link marketplace, which is the example that I gave you before. Let's have a think about, what the different data types are that I'm going to have on my site. And so, for example, if my marketplace is about clients hiring legal researchers, then one of the tables that I know I'm going to have is going to be my talent table or my legal researcher table. And so you can go and name it whatever you want, but let's just for the sake of this example call it legal researcher. And then also another different data type that I'm going to have is my clients. So we're just going to go ahead and add clients. Now, the first thing that I would do is I would start figuring out what information you need to collect from your legal researchers in order to figure out, what information you can potentially store on a website or pass on to a client. So one thing that we'll need, for example, is say someone's first name. We'll also need an email field. So we'll go ahead and we'll select the data type, which is email, or field type, which is email. Then we might also have a last name. Just literally typed in my last name, but we'll go in here. And then, maybe we want to add a profile picture. And maybe another thing that we want to know is, someone's rates. So we can look up the currency one and we can say, hey, what's your hourly rate? And now what else? Maybe you want to add another thing like skills, which can, again, now be something that links to a whole new table. Okay. Now I'm going to skip this part for now, but essentially you want to start off by just having the basics. And I'd also recommend adding a status field that basically reflects the stage of the process that they're at with your platform. So I usually have something like needs review when they just sign up or get added. Then I have a stage for approved. Then I have a stage for when they are live on the site. Then I have a stage for reject. And then I have a stage for archived. Usually I give it colors that kind of reflect where someone is in the process, just so it's all clear. So we'll just go in here and then we'll also go and do that. And so then whenever someone signs up and they are needs review, I know exactly, okay, Connor is in review and I can now review the rest of the information. Now we'll do the same thing with clients. You might want to now collect information like, okay, what's the email of the person who's getting in touch with you? So we'll go in here, email. Now, I don't want to make it overly technical, but when you are dealing with when you're building like a people's database, I'd recommend using the email address as the first field, because the first field needs to be unique in order to make sure that, you know, linking data with automation tools works efficiently. But I'd recommend using emails because they typically are unique. Now, then what else do we have? We've got a first name. We've got a last name. And we've got, you know, a company name potentially. You kind of got to think about it as like a bit of a CRM that you're building here. You know, you might want to use a drop down for like company size. And so when you're going out and you're doing research into, you know, who potential customers could be, just think about what information would be useful to you. So we'll go add that in there. And as soon as you've got this set up, you can start populating it with data, and you essentially have the first version of your database that you can then essentially leverage to connect buyers with sellers. Now, when you do start connecting buyers with sellers, you want to establish the relationship between the two parties. And so on the Unicorn Factory, I just call this messages. And this really reflects like the direct introduction between two parties. And so once again, what we want to do here is we just want to go ahead and we want to, first of all, create a field where we can basically see who the legal researcher or the talent is that we're connecting. So we're going to go in here and we'll just go legal researcher. Like that. And I'm going to disable allow linking to multiple records because there's only going to be one person that we're introducing to one client. And then we're going to do the same thing for clients. Just going to drop that in here. Oy, oy, oy. There we go. And just to make sure, we do not want to allow linking to multiple clients here. And then, you know, if you're doing it in like a messaging interface where a client messages a freelancer, then we'll also need, you know, the actual message text as well. Okay. So this is kind of how it starts. Another thing that you can do in Airtable that's quite neat is they have a field called the created time field. So that way you always know when the message was sent. And typically what I like to do in the status field here is, and this will really depend on your setup, but let's say, for example, you want to review messages first, then you can go send it to review, set it to review, and then you can set up a workflow later on that automatically sends the email when you want. And so that way, whenever a new record gets added or a new message gets sent, and like you might have like a contact form on your Webflow site, you can actually just send the information here and you'll then say, hey, here's a new message for review. And then when you switch it to send, you can then trigger a workflow that automatically forwards on that information to your customer. And so this is essentially the starting point of how you assemble your database. Now, there's a lot more to it. I actually want to show you on this one some of the additional features inside of Airtable that really make using Airtable incredibly powerful. And it will also lead me into the second part of what you should be working on after this video. So as of right now, you should have a home page. You should have a way for clients to contact you. Now, another thing that you might want to do when you're creating a talent marketplace is to have a way for your talent to sign up on your site. So what I recommend doing is to actually create a new page. So we're going to go in here and we'll just call this page, we'll just say sign up as a researcher or whatever. And then you'll see that just by creating this page, it will basically create a new empty page. And then what we can do is we can simply go back to our home page and we can copy the entire page. And then we can use what we created in this first instance on our home page to make adjustments to this particular page. So we can say sign up as a researcher and work with awesome clients, whatever. You know, we're powering through things. And then you can go here and say apply now. Okay, you can make your, I'm not even going to get into this now, but we'll take them to that page. We'll basically explain how our site works. And then when they click on the apply now button, ideally what we want them to do is to basically give us all the information about that we need in order to see whether or not we want them on our site. And so what we can do then is with our marketplace, what we can do is we'll have a table for our talent. So in this case, actually, let me go back to the legal link one that I created. So we have our table here with all these fields. What we can do is we can actually create a form. Okay, and so this is what it looks like. You click on forms, you click on create a new form, and we can say legal researcher, give it a form name, and then we can just create the form. And then in here, we can basically customize our form. Now, what we want to do is we only want to keep the fields that they can change. So we don't actually want them to change the status field. So what we'll do is we'll simply remove it. How do we remove it? That's a good question. Remove. Okay. You can also add your logo. You can also add a cover image. Still pretty simple. If you're paying for Airtable, you can also remove the branding. And so it's all pretty neat, pretty straightforward. But as soon as you've got this form, you can simply go ahead and you can publish it. Okay. Now, when you're the admin, it will show a few little buttons here and there. But the first thing that you're going to need to do is switch it to everyone on the web. And then you're just going to copy. Now, these buttons here will not be seen by your customers. But once we have that link, we'll head back to our website, to our sign up page. And then in here, we're just going to simply apply that link. So I'm going to go add a link field, paste it, publish my site. And now we've really done the second part of all of this. Okay, so we've created our homepage. We've now created a become a researcher page. And now when we go to this page and someone clicks on this link, it will take them to our form page. And then when they come in, and again, these buttons up here, they cannot see, they only appear because I'm the admin of the base. But then when someone comes in and fills out their contact details, so let's just quickly do that. We'll just add a quick little image. And hopefully you can see that this is pretty fast. You know, like it doesn't take too much work. All right, I've got an image, upload, and then they can also specify their rates. Go 100, we'll hit the submit button. And as soon as it's submitted and we go back to our site, you'll see that the information automatically gets added. Okay, and that is essentially how you start building your sellers database. You just simply make it, you explain what you do on your website, and then you add a form to make it easy for them to basically fill it out. Now you can add whatever other fields that you need, but this is really the next step. Now, you can use these forms for so many different things. For example, you can also create a page on your website for listing projects, you know, and if you don't want to build out the form in Webflow, you can actually create a form in here where you just basically say, hey, share your project details. What's your budget? What are the skills that are required? All that kind of stuff. And then you just take that link, post it on your site. Now, this is something that you can honestly get done in minutes. Now, the next part of this is going to be, well, when someone submits the information, how do you even find out that someone submitted it? You know, do you always have to be in Airtable? And that brings me to another feature that Airtable has that's awesome, and that is Airtable automation. So what you can do is you can say, hey, when a new record is created, so when someone signs up, okay, run an automation. And so, for example, one automation that you should set up, and we will be diving more into the automation side in the next video when we start to go over some of the automation tools that I use. But basically what you can do here is you can define the event that starts the workflow, and then you can define the actions that follow once the event was triggered. And so in this particular case, what I'm saying is, hey, when a new record is created inside of my freelancers table, then what I want you to do is to first of all update the status. This part is probably not particularly important when you're just getting started, but more importantly, we want to send them an email acknowledging that we received their message. And so what you can do is you can then dynamically pull data from the record that was submitted, and you can basically populate it in its corresponding field. So in this case, if we want to say, hey, who do we want to send this email to? Well, we want to send it to the email address that was submitted when this record was created, you know? And then you can also personalize the email by adding dynamic data from that record into here. And if you wanted to like notify yourself, Airtable also has some really nice little integrations with Slack, so you can say, hey, send me a message in my account. You just go ahead, connect your account, leave a message, and you're pretty much good to go. And so when I look at the Unicorn Factory, I use Airtable automations quite heavily just to start workflows, but ultimately that is all you really need. Okay, so now before we get into the final part where I'll tell you exactly what the next step is for you to take, let me quickly tell you about the MVMP Labs, which is my online community. Now, over the last few years, I have built a lot of these sites and I basically share what I learn in here. Now, in here, you'll find some of the videos that I also post on YouTube, but also the ones that don't make the cut. And I also have about 90 plus tutorials where I walk you through how to use some of the different no-code tools to basically build these sites. So if you are someone that is interested in, really getting into the weeds of these tools, then this community here will really help you get started. It has all the tools and knowledge that you'll need in order to teach yourself how to build these sites. Plus, we have a really awesome community as well of people who are building similar sites to you. So I would love to see you over there. I'll leave a link in the description down below. With that being said, let's dive into the last part, which is what you should do next. Now, super important one, don't overthink your databases. Really what you want to do is you're going to just start having a play around with it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to essentially create the CRM for your marketplace. So create a table for your talent and create a table for your dream buyers. Then you don't really need to create a table for messages unless you are already having buyers who are expressing interest in what it is that you're doing, in which case feel free to. But what you want to do is you want to create a table for your talent and create a table for your buyers, and then you want to start populating it with people that you can reach out to. Now, the reason why this is important is because the only way that people are going to use your platform is if you actually let them know that you exist. And one of the best ways to get started is to just basically create your CRM. Okay, so table for your talent, table for your buyers. Add all of the different fields that you will need to basically gather. And then once you've created the table for your talent, what I'll also ask you to do is to go back to your website that you hopefully created last week and to create a sign up as a talent page, and then just add a link to the form that you create down below. As soon as you have that, it's a lot easier for you to reach out to potential talent and to ask them if they are interested in work, or for you to connect them with different clients. This is hands down the easiest starting point. Now, really, the key to success is to find information and populate it with data, so that later on, when in one of the future videos we talk about some of the automation tools, you can actually build a system for reaching out to clients, okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. But for now, that is the next step in all of this. Build the first version of your database, keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it with the amount of fields that you need. And as soon as you have that all done, then it's going to be a lot easier in the next video to learn how you can actually automate the process of sourcing clients, and then also do things like reaching out to clients. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If there are any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.